and we are live with our first episode of the Forgotten Outdoors podcast. If you're visiting us for the first time, this episode is our episode 1, and it is a brief introduction about us, about what we're about here at Forgotten Outdoors. And we look forward to having you get to know us a little bit more as we move on through additional episodes. So we've got me, my name's Thomas Meekum, and we've got Ben here as well.
Yeah, so this episode's going to be a little bit different than a lot of our other episodes. This isn't a how-to on fishing, a how-to on elk hunting or anything like that. Really what we're trying to do with this episode is kind of talk about who we are personally, who we are as a company. I don't think we want to get too much into like us personally. As you listen to our podcasts and our videos, you know, you'll get to know us better. But
At least that's the hope. That's the hope.
that is the hope. So you have to listen to every single one of our episodes to get to know us better.
Don't miss one.
No, but yeah, we want to give a little bit of intro into us, but really our focus isn't about us. This isn't a podcast or a company about us and how cool we are and all the amazing animals that we shoot and the big fish that we catch. That's not what it's about. What this company is about is helping you guys get into the outdoors, be more confident in the outdoors, have a more fulfilling experience in the outdoors with whatever that is, whether that's hunting, whether that's fishing, whether that's, you know, camping or backpacking, whatever it is, that's what our focus is. So I guess jumping into that, we can talk a little bit about ourselves and then get into more about what our company is.
Yeah, so like I said, my name's Thomas Meekum. I've been doing outdoor activities from a very young age. I grew up in a house where my dad, he's really big into fishing, so that's kind of my first introduction into the outdoors. We'd go on these fishing trips and we'd camp and we'd stay overnight places. But as I got a little bit older, 13, 14 years old, kind of got into the hunting game, got really into going on this one family trip a year that we'd go and we'd spend 3 or 4 days up in the mountains. We'd be chasing some deer, and that's kind of where my introduction to hunting happened. So for me, fishing very early on, hunting came a little bit later, but even hunting I would say came early on. And so I've just always kind of been around the outdoors. I love the outdoors. I enjoy just all aspects of being outside. I feel like it teaches you things. You build connections with people that you can't get any other way. So for me, that's my love. That's my passion for the outdoors. Is it comes from just being in it since a young age.
Yeah, and for me, it's been pretty different than Thomas. I've been, when I was a little kid, I had uncles and I had a grandpa who were really into hunting, and like 6, 7 years old, I was really into that, you know, kind of tagging along with them, but it didn't go much past that. You know, it wasn't growing up past 6, 7, 8 years old. It wasn't a part of my life, really. We got into high school, and I loved the outdoors, and I get into the outdoors, but it was more wilderness survival. Like, I was really into Bear Grylls, you know, and seeing him eat all sorts of nasty things. And so I did a lot of those kind of adventures, wilderness survival things, catching lizards and eating them raw and stupid things like that.
See, and for us, I think we kind of got into the camping realm together.
Right. Yeah.
We did the Boy Scout camps. Sometimes we just did our own camps in the backyard. So I feel like we kind of got into the camping realm around the same time and kind of did that together.
Yeah, definitely. And so you guys know, Thomas and I, we've been friends since we were little kids. We grew up together. We went to school together, and we've been messing around for a long time. But yeah, we did get into the camping realm of the outdoors. But for me personally, I did the wilderness survival type thing, did camping trips with Thomas and other friends. And a lot of it, though, was kind of sports oriented growing up. A lot of it was chasing girls. That was a lot of my focus growing up. It wasn't hunting, it wasn't fishing, because I don't know, it's a hard thing, you know, your focus is on something else. And I didn't have somebody tutoring me and showing me the ways of how to go out and start deer hunting or elk hunting, how to you know, rig up a line to go catch trout, or even where to go. So I never really got into that realm. I always kind of wanted to, but it didn't really happen for me until, it's only been 5 years ago that I really got into hunting. I fished a little bit before that, but I didn't really get into hunting or big game hunting until probably about 5 years ago. So that's where we're kind of different. Thomas, you grew up doing it a lot more than I did. And this has been kind of a recent passion for me, but it's kind of spiraled out of control, and that's about all I do anymore for the past 5 years.
Yeah, and so I think that's a really good segue into kind of what we're hoping to be about here at Forgotten Outdoors is, for Ben, he went through the awkward phase of going to hunter's education with a bunch of 12-year-olds as an adult. And so we want to kind of inspire confidence in the outdoors for maybe people who are our age or even older who have always kind of been curious about it, right. But they've just never made that jump. So we want to kind of be able to be your guide for lack of a better word, be your guide through the process of getting in the outdoors, building that confidence, and whether you're new to the game or maybe you're already in the game but you're just wanting a few more tips and tricks to kind of improve that, we're hoping that we can kind of be that segue for you and be the roadmap for you to get into the outdoors and find new hobbies, find new passions.
Right, definitely. And not to get ahead of ourselves, but that is a hard thing, especially as an adult. For me, it was extremely embarrassing. I went to hunter's education with a bunch of 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds. I just gotten back from the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years.
So you've never seen a gun before?
No, I never fired a gun. I mean, I was in the infantry doing like heavy weapons, but yeah. So yeah, I'm with a bunch of 10-year-olds in this room, and we're talking about how to walk over a fence with a gun safely. And so that was hard for me to take that step and kind of swallow my pride a little bit. So it can be intimidating. It can kind of be embarrassing, or whatever it is getting into it. But like I said, I got into it about 5 years ago, and now I don't really feel like a beginner. I don't feel like it's that awkward stage anymore. That's all I like to do. It's all I can usually think about is getting outside, and whether it is hunting or fishing or anything like that.
Yeah. So I guess just kind of, to transition into kind of some of the firsts for us, for me, like I said, I've been doing this for a while, but one memory of being outside, being outdoors that just always sticks out to me is the first time I shot a big game animal. So for me, that was a deer, and I remember it was my first time up in the mountains. I was hunting with my dad, and this particular time we were road hunting, so we were driving the roads along the river, and we were just looking for movement, looking for animals. And I mean, it had been a solid 2 days of just driving. and that's normal, you don't see animals, but I think we were kind of like doing our last pass. It was one of those, hey, we'll just go one more time, and then we'll head back to camp, get settled in for the night. And it was the weirdest thing. We're driving, and all of a sudden my dad hits his brakes, and he's like, there's a deer. It's back there. It's in the clearing. And I remember busting out of the car. I'm running back down the road. I step off the road, and I see this deer, and it's just the one clearing in the trees. And I just remember so vividly seeing it, and it was looking at me, and I looked at it. And then when I pulled the trigger, I watched this deer run and jump across the road and go up into the brush. But that's kind of a weird moment for, I think, a lot of hunters, a lot of people who are new to the game, is that moment that you realize that you just, took the life of this animal. But I remember for me, that moment inspired me because I was so impressed with these animals. They live in this rugged country. They can move through it flawlessly. It's almost like they know each stick, each log that's sitting on the forest ground. And so for me, I was extremely humbled by, how amazing these animals really are, and the elements that they put up with to survive. And so for me, that was kind of my first kind of come to moment in hunting, and it's just always stuck out to me because that was when I kind of gained my appreciation for animals and gained my appreciation for the outdoors. So,
did you get the deer?
Yes, we did. So, yes, that's actually a good question. We did end up finding it. It hadn't gone very far. It was a good shot, and so yeah, we did end up recovering the deer, and
Nice.
and so it's awesome. And it was just a little 3-point buck, and I've still got the antlers to this day just because of the memory, not for the trophy aspect of it, but
That's the first.
yeah, it's a first, it's a story, and for me, that's what it's all about.
So how bad were you shaking? Were you shaking pretty bad? Because I remember my first big game kill. Man, like I'm a grown man, and,
Yep.
and you get that adrenaline pumping, and you start shaking. So what was that like?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't actually shake that much when I pulled up on it. I remember just kind of dialing in, and I pulled that trigger. But I remember after the trigger pull, that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like I pulled the trigger. I could see blood on the ground. Like I remember that moment, and it's like you can seriously barely walk. Like I couldn't even hardly walk back to the truck because I was just so much adrenaline, and yeah, I was shaking. My voice was shaking. My hands were shaking. Everything was shaking. So yeah, it's a very real moment for sure.
How old were you?
Oh, I think I was 15 or 16.
Huh.
Yeah, I think I was 15 or 16.
That's awesome. Yeah, like one of my first experiences, since we're kind of doing first right now, I probably one of my big first like moments where it was a kind of a game changer for me. I didn't even shoot an animal. I just gotten into archery hunting, and so we're from Southeast Idaho, and one of like the pinnacle, like the king of the forest is elk. Rocky Mountain elk, and
A big old bowl.
big old bull. And that the time of the year to hunt that is in September during archery season. It's right in the middle of the rut. These bulls are screaming. If you're lucky, you can get into bulls that are screaming. And so I was by myself. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had already hunted a couple days. Really, I'd seen some older elk tracks, but really hadn't had like any action. And so I was hiking this ridge line one night, and I was bugling every now and again. I'm sure it sounded absolutely terrible, like one of those teenage boys that's going through puberty.
Just screaming.
Some things are starting to drop,
Crackling.
I'm just, that whole thing going on. The sun had just set, so it was getting dark pretty quick. And I ripped off a bugle, and hadn't heard a single thing. And all of a sudden, out of the deep timber of this canyon, I hear a bull answer back. And instantly, like, my heart rate jumps from, 40 beats per minute to about 200 beats per minute,
Yeah.
like when you actually hear a bull answer you back. And so I kind of
And you're close enough to hear it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And he was obviously like responding to me. And so I kind of start hiking down this canyon trying to be all sneaky. And, I'm cow calling and bugling, probably bugling way more than I should have been. But this bull was all fired up, right in the middle of the rut. And he would just scream, like almost overlap my bugles. I'd bugle and he'd just like hammer right back with a bugle. And so I'm like getting down into this canyon, getting down into the trees, and this bugle's getting louder and louder. And I'm starting to get down, and I start hearing this, like the brush just thrashing, and crashing. And I'd never experienced anything like that. You think that it's going to be this majestic, bugle off in the distance and everything. But no, this guy was pissed off. He was breaking trees in half, down in this canyon. And I hadn't seen him to this point. And I didn't see him that day, actually. I saw him the next day, but I get down in this canyon. It's getting dark. The sun's already set, and so it's like it's getting black. It's past hunting hours, but I just put my bow down, and I just sat there and bugle with this bull. And he probably came. It was a little spooky. He probably came, 50 yards to me. I never saw him just in these trees, but man, that just changed the game for me to have that kind of experience with this wild animal where I'm communicating with him. He's screaming at me. He's ready to,
And you're in his habitat.
I'm in his world, man, and I'm at his mercy. And so that was where I got hooked, to be able to communicate with an animal like that, and just the rage that was going through this bull, and that I was the cause of it, and I was at one side, I was kind of kicking myself. I'm like, dang it, if I had 30 minutes more light, I would have pounded this bull, But at the same time, once I knew that I wasn't once like hunting hours were over, and I could just set my bow down and just really enjoy that moment. It was a clear night, crisp night, and just to talk with that bull, that was special. And so that had me hooked, and hook, line, and sinker, man. I was ready to.
Gobbled it up.
Yeah, I was hooked on elk hunting and just hunting in general. That really sealed the deal for me. It was awesome.
And I love that you're talking about how it was after hours when or after shooting hours when it all went down. I feel like that happens more often than not. Right. Where you might even see one before shooting light's over, but it's out of your range. You know, so that I feel like that's just part of the beast of hunting is gets you excited, teases you a little bit, and keeps you coming back.
Yeah, and that first year that I archery hunted elk, I didn't even get an elk. I did see that bull the next day. I went back to the same place, and I did get him to answer a little bit. I saw him, and he was a nice bull. He was like a smaller 6x6 bull, and he moved through some trees, and I got a glimpse of him. Never got a shot on him. Didn't shoot any elk that year, but man, when you experience things like that, when you go into incredible country, you go into these animals' habitat where they live, and like Thomas said with these deer, it's like they know where every stick is. You'll see this big bull walking through the forest, and he doesn't even make a sound. He doesn't even hit his head or antlers on anything. And you try to go through that same country, and you're like stepping and tripping on everything. It's just incredible. When you put yourself in incredible country with incredible animals, you're going to witness incredible things. And so, obviously you're seeing that we're hooked on it. And we're just kind of trying to help people, you guys, so that you can have similar experiences. Or if you've already had similar experiences, we hope that with this podcast, with our videos, with our YouTube channel and our social media, that you can remember some of those, that you can, just sit and enjoy listening to hunting stories.
Yeah.
Or if you're a beginner, that you can take those steps, and we can help you kind of on your journey into, getting into the outdoors and experiencing these incredible things.
Yeah, and we want our customers, we want our people who are following us on our journey, we want you to feel comfortable, reaching out to us, DMing us, emailing us.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is, because we want to hear your questions, because, we've been in this for a little while, and so we don't want to be, saying things or giving tips to things that is way over your head. But we also, we want to add value wherever we can. We want to inspire confidence. And so we want you guys to feel comfortable reaching out to us, and we want you to be a part of our journey. We want you to kind of continue following on, because we don't proclaim to be professionals by any means.
Absolutely not.
We're learning. And so I think that's kind of why we're so excited about this podcast is, yes, we're going to be able to share some of the things that we know now, but we're hoping to be able to bring on people who know more than we do. Yeah. And get them to share some tips and tricks with us, and that you guys will be able to benefit from. So, follow us along, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and, just, we want you to be part of our journey. We want you to be able to learn from us and honestly just become a part of our community and get into this world if we can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you're saying, Thomas, like we don't claim to be professionals at all. We're not paid to do this, and we're not sponsored. We're not a professional hunter by any means. But we do have some experience. Like we hope to be able to share some of our experiences and our knowledge, because we've had success. We've been doing it for some time, and we hope to share that to you. But like moving forward with this podcast and with our videos, we really hope to be able to bring on people. Like per se, we do one about field dressing an animal. We hope to be able to get a butcher in here, somebody who deals with this every single day, and really run us through, and we can bounce ideas off each other and hopefully get some good information out there. Because this whole journey, this whole Forgotten Outdoors company, it really isn't about us. We're not trying to toot our own horn. We're not trying to get famous because we're these expert hunters and we shoot the biggest stuff. That's not it at all.
We do not shoot the biggest stuff.
We don't. Yeah, we're that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to really help you guys at whatever stage that you are improve your experience with the outdoors, because we're in love with it. We are obsessed with the outdoors. It's done so much for us, and we hope that it can do the same for you guys. Yeah,
and just to add to that, our podcast is obviously going to be about tips, tricks, and stories. But if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we're wanting to do gear reviews. We're wanting to talk about some of the things that we love, not because we're being sponsored by any of these companies, but because we've tested them, we've tried them, and they've worked for us. And so we hope that you can kind of get something from that as well. But yeah, just moving forward, we hope that you guys enjoy the journey that we're on and that you become a part of that journey with us.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully you guys hit us up. Let us know what questions you have, what comments you have, what you like, what you dislike. Hopefully by about episode 2000, you guys can look back at this episode and laugh at it about how bad it is. Our setup in front of the fireplace. Our studio is under construction right now, which is Thomas's new home. We have a little room. We're going to set up a studio in there, and but yeah, hopefully you guys hit us up. Hopefully you follow our other stuff. This is our shameless plug here about subscribing to the podcast, subscribing to our YouTube channel. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram.
And we're on Twitter.
And we are on Twitter.
Brand new to Twitter, though, so be patient with us.
But yeah, follow us along on our journey. Hopefully we can crank out some episodes in the near future, and they'll be a lot different than this episode. We'll talk more specifics about hunting, fishing, and not just those things, about camping and backpacking and just getting outside, whether it's a nature hike, and all that good stuff. So with that, I think this is a wrap. I think this is the end of the podcast.
Yep, and because we haven't figured out how to end these things yet, we're just dragging it out. So
that's it. That's the cut.
That's the cut.
Cut it there.